I am here to help make Nitro great again. And that means we need to talk about the good, the bad, and then whether you should get one. Nitro World Order.
Nitro World Order.
The body is very bright and yellow.
What's up, Nitro Gang? This is the brand new Hobao VS2 1/8 scale Nitro Buggy. And today, in this video, we will be doing a real, truthful investigation. I will go over the good, I will go over the bad, and then I will break this thing in. I will make sure that you guys have my 100% truthful, honest opinion on what I think about this $600 brand new Hobao. There it is, the box, the car, and the super weird Hobao radio. The only good thing about this radio is the fact that it's a 2.4 gigahertz model and it uses only 4 AA's. Everything else, I actually kind of hate. Weird buttons here on top for steering trim. You gotta click it, it beeps, makes a bunch of noises. It's very weird. The manual is mostly just exploded parts views. Almost all of it is just exploded parts views. There is a good detailed break-in engine instruction demonstration manual here. We will take a look at this later. It tells you exactly how to break it in. That way, you do not kill this Nitro. Now, looking at it as it is, I just had to do some minimal assembly when I took it out of the box. The wheels had to be installed, and the wing also had to be installed. The rest of it is basically fully ready to run, other than the fact we'll get to later. One of the worst things, it does not come with a battery pack, but we'll talk about that when we take off the body in just a little bit. The box itself, it's fairly minimalistic, but that's normal for Hobao and actually for low-C brand manufacturers. This is not an HPI. This is not a Traxxas when you get crazy box art everywhere. Half of the box, obviously this buggy also comes in electric models, so they do make sure that you do know that an electric is available. Now, if you look at the side here, of course, we went with the 0.30 nitro powered one, right? That's the one we got. We don't play around. On the back of the box, we finally made it to the specs on the Nitro. So this one has a lot of aluminum parts. We'll take a look when we remove the body. Hardened steel lightweight parts, pretty much typical for most 8-scale buggies here. One of the key features here is the 3 types of battery box weight distribution. So when you guys see the way that the battery box and a servo tray is mounted in this chassis in a little bit, you will understand why this one is actually quite significant. It says new anti-leakage differential housing. Well, I'll be the judge of that. We'll see if the center diff pisses me off or not. A lot of CNC aluminum for the steering mechanism, which is quite nice. So right here, they have a good depiction and a picture of the way that the radio box is a quick release unit, which I've honestly never seen in a 1/8 scale Nitro buggy. Usually this is in like the 1/10 scale Nitro RTR touring cars. We have a new design top speed muffler and header. Well, did they just say top speed? I like that. Top speed, that's what you need. That is basically it for the box. There's really not much else that comes inside here. I've already taken almost everything out. We have the buggy, we have the radio, and in the back there, we have the pull start handle. Very important, this thing has a very innovative COPS, yes, that's right, you heard me say it, COPS, C-O-P-S, pull start system. Let's begin with the good features. Suspension out of the box, you're looking at it right now. Very good setup. If anything, I would say it's honestly a little bit too low because you could tell the suspension travel on this buggy is very nice. Rear end set up also quite well. We have standard 17mm hubs, as all buggies do, and very high good traction and grip tires. Now, we're gonna take the body off. The problem is, it was so poorly cut that I actually had to Dremel a whole bunch of extra material here from the body. So, who's calling me? Don't call! Now, when I first took this out of the box, I barely could get this thing to fit. The reason is, they trimmed it so poorly, I had to Dremel out a whole bunch of extra material here in the front. Now, I gotta say, I did a fairly nice job. You really can't even tell that any removal of this Lexan was done. Without that, the body just would not fit because you have heavy obstruction here from the fuel lines. It really kind of leads me to believe that when Hobao released this, not a single person on the Hobao engineering team or in the company tried to put the body on this buggy. They just said, hey man, there you go. Suck it, NitroGang and everyone else around the world. You know, well, we're not going to have that. But I want you guys to know if you get it, it's still sickening. All you got to do is just trim the body out here a little bit. And also, I did make some extra space. You could see a nice circular cut here for the pull start handle. Also, yeah, that wasn't it. I had to do a lot of extra cuts. Over here, this has to be highly trimmed down because as you had the body installed normally, the steering rack would actually get in the way and obstruct and hit the body. It doesn't really do it as much now, but something to be aware of. You gotta trim it, otherwise you cannot kill it. Let's take a closer look at this innovative radio tray. So the battery goes right in here. Now, unfortunately, they didn't include a AA battery pack holder. They also did not include a rechargeable battery pack holder. I had to get a regular 6-volt flat rechargeable battery pack, stick that sucker in there, and now it's good. Let's test out the electronics just to make sure everything's functional and it works. By the way, these are quite good steering servos. They're very fast, guys. Rated at 18 kilograms, stock. Very good servos. The main difference between this model and most other 1/8 scale Nitro models is you can adjust a position of this radio tray. So as you saw before in the picture, all of this just lifts out. There's clips here. You could press them in, remove all of this, you know, for either easy cleaning or just easy maintenance, or if you want to move back the radio tray here, there's numbers 1, 2, 3 for, I guess, better weight distribution. Which, you know, that's something that 1/8 scale Nitro buggies, when they're racing, that really matters. Another nice feature I like, they have an external mounted fuel filter. Very convenient feature. Oftentimes, these fuel filters are directly built into the tank, and there's almost no way that you could ever clean them. Here, you have a nice, easy access, external mounted fuel filter, easy to clean. Another great feature from Hobao, I will say, the air filter came pre-oiled. So if I lift off the top cover, you could see the blue insert there. That was already pre-oiled from the factory. That's a nice touch. Another innovative feature that some people love, some people hate. Personally, my feelings have not been 100% solidified on this feature yet. This is the pull start system. So as I'm pointing to here, this is the COPS pull starter. Not the COPD, but the COPS. That stands for crank off pull start. Now, at first I thought, okay, well, maybe it's because they give you a giant green handle. You know, they want you to like insert it like this, and then you pull it, which is honestly a cool idea, because normally these .30 engines have super crazy compression that try to rip your hand off. So this gives you a lot of leverage. It's called the Easy Pull Starter. And yes, it actually was quite easy once you heat it up. We will go through the final break-in process as Hobao recommends it. But for now, let's take a look at this online graphic I was able to find, and we could take a look at what the COPS pull starter actually is. It doesn't call 911 for you when you're running too lean, but what it actually does, take a look at this image. You can clearly see the crankshaft rotating. Now I'm going to read a statement here from Hobao Racing themselves. It says, the new Hyper 30 engine from Hobao features new carburetor and new crankshaft design that outputs insane power right at your fingertip. Special features with this engine is the all-new pull start system, the COPS. The newly designed pull starter allows the engine to run at 100% maximum efficiency. That means no power loss like the traditional pull starts. I did some further digging, and it appears that basically what they're talking about is when you're no longer pulling the pull starter, that means the one-way bearing is not being used to engage the crankshaft. This has a separate crankshaft, kind of, they call it, a crank off pull starter design. Basically what that means is when the engine is normally running under its own power and you're not pulling it, well, the crankshaft is not directly connected to the one-way bearing, meaning you get the benefits of minimum friction and kind of like having a sealed backplate engine, because your crankshaft is not directly spinning the one-way bearing at all times and robbing your engine of about 3 to 4% power. And I have people calling me on the phone again. Don't call me no more. I'm doing a Nitro review. Come on. This comes with a fairly tall 17-tooth clutch bell. I think this is going to give us some proper speed, guys. I don't know. I'm a little bit excited about it. Another element about this engine that is quite unique. So this motor uses a turbo glow plug. Now, if you look at the Hobao ads, and also if you look on top of the head, it says turbo. Now, obviously, there is no external turbo. This is just legit sickening marketing, but they do use a real turbo glow plug. What that mostly does is eliminate the gasket that's normally around the bottom of the plug there, so there's no copper washer there. And also, the end of the glow plug is a little bit different. Also, obviously, expect to pay a little bit more for a turbo glow plug. I do want to tell you that very high-performance motors, including the OS18TZ, does run a turbo glow plug. So it is not just a gimmick. It is quite interesting feature set here. We have rear mud guards on the suspension arms. Of course, sway bars. These are basically common 8-scale features, but it's quite rare that you see mud guards like this. Bottom of the chassis, I can tell that the flywheel is mounted nice and almost nearly flat to the bottom, so you should not have a problem with accessing it using a starter box if that's something you want to do. Although the potential of this COPS pull starter system, you're really not getting any benefits by running a sealed backplate. They do sell these engines with or without a pull starter. If you wanted to get one, they're about like $160 or $70. So the prices are not crazy. Very good looking wheel design, I gotta say. Hobao. Well, what is that, right? Like, where'd it come from? If you look up the history of Ofna, world-renowned 1/8 scale buggy builder. I have one. You cannot kill it, and I love it. This is basically the most modern evolution of the Ofna 1/8 scale buggy Nitro chassis. $605. They still make the Hobao Hyper 7, which really is just the old Ofna Hyper 7. This is, I don't know what equivalency it would be to the Ofna segment, but this will be one of the highest models. Maybe the 9.5 something, I don't know, but one of those top tier ones. Very nice suspension. Also, thick shock towers. Good use of hardware all around. But just a couple of weird features, like the body doesn't fit. You gotta cut it as soon as you get it out of the box. The radio is very weird, but a lot of these things like trimming the body and the radio, most people wind up using their own radio anyway, so it's really more or less irrelevant. Well, it's about time to go break it in, but we want to do it the right way. Therefore, I highly recommend you guys read the Hyper 30 Nitro engine instruction manual. Let's just see what it says. We have some important engine needle settings for information. I checked. These were 100% spot on, actually, when I was looking at it. Now, the first thing it says over here, new engine break-in. I'm just going to read some of it. A brand new Hobao racing engine is extremely tight due to high compression. This is normal for a new ABC piston sleeve engine. Well, that's very logical. Step 2 here just basically says to prime it. And step 3 here says to, let's see, once the engine starts, heat cycle the engine during break-in process. Let the engine idle without the car moving for 3 full tanks of fuel. Okay, so they want you to do idle for 3 full tanks of fuel and then allow for a 5-minute in between a cool down period. One of the odd things I'm looking at right here, it says engine temperature should be in between 100 to 150 Fahrenheit. That seems kind of low. Usually break-in, you're at like, 200-ish degrees on average. Anyways, so 3 tanks at idle, that's fine. Then it says step 4. After completing the first 3 tanks, you can now adjust the top end needle 1/4 of a turn to improve performance. Okay, then you can do 2 additional tanks of fuel. Allow the engine to cool down 5 minutes in between without over revving. So basically 5 full tanks for break-in. Step 5 says break-in procedure is now completed. You can now begin to adjust it for maximum performance. The first thing you should check is to make sure the carburetor is fully open when you full throttle. Yes, good point. I did check it. Ours is set up properly. All right, so here it's telling you to keep adjusting it until, before you get too hot. Remember to always check engine temperatures. Good ideas here. It should never exceed 250. The optimal temperature, best engine life is 180 to 220 degrees. I like this. This is a very conservative engine temperature rating. I know the Traxxas engines, they generally run hotter than this. So, I gotta tell you, Hobao is telling you not to kill it right away. Only one thing left to do. Let's go fire it up and break her in. It's time to preheat the engine. Let's see how long it takes me to take this body off. Alright, well, it's not that bad this time. Must be all the practice I'm doing. These Hyper 30 engines do have some crazy compression. I can verify that. They weren't lying about that in the manual. So it really is in your best interest to preheat them. Just gonna wait a little while, maybe like 7-8 minutes. For fuel, we're using the typical Bones Brew 30% nitro, 10% oil. Highly reliable nitro fuel. I highly recommend you guys get it. I'm gonna put in about, not all the way, about 85% of the way. That's all you need. All right, going to prime it a little bit. Very windy day. All right, that should be adequate. And now it's time to fire it up. Let's make it happen. You can't kill a nitro. Oh, almost killed me right there. Ah, getting angry. Fucking piece of shit. on. Well, this is pretty good. You know, it shut off. It was obviously way too rich. We're gonna see whether I can start it up again with the body on, because guys, I don't think Hobao thought this through that much, and I already trimmed this quite a bit before actually. So let's see what could happen. By the way, I'm already bleeding. You see that? Middle finger is bleeding. Hobao tried to kill me. All right, let's see how this goes. So as I'm pulling it, I gotta be really careful not to rub the cord against the body over here, because that will over time obviously cut it. So you gotta kind of hold it up like this in this awkward position. Let me tell you something else I didn't actually mention before, but it just started pissing me off a lot. So the reason I'm having a hard time starting this engine is because I'm already at the highest possible trim setting on the carb, and it's still super low. That's why I don't seem to be raising the idle trim, right? Because it's already high. My only alternative is to manually move these linkages. So, man, I don't know. Hobao, you know, I'm already all the way at the top of the limit here on the throttle trim, and it's basically doing nothing. Push this collar in a little bit. Freaking pissing me off over here, Hobao. Okay, that should be adequate. Going to just check. All right, so now I can see the carb is moving a little bit more, and I can lower some of the idle trim. Since I'm not in business with Hobao, I don't profit from this in any way other than the ad revenue, and all of my NitroGang supporters, I'm gonna tell you the good, I'm gonna tell you the bad, and I will tell you that if you were a brand new RCer and you got this would highly piss you off, and you might even go and get an Arma. So for that, Hobao, I hate you for that, okay? That's right. Let's fire it up again, see how our increased idle trim has worked out. All right, let's do it. We got a higher idle now because I manually adjusted the carb. Let's fire it up. That's right, you see that? That's how it's supposed to start. They couldn't even get the damn linkages correctly. Unbelievable. Sickening. All right, and the idle is too low because when I press brakes, it turns off. So that means we also need to do an idle set screw adjustment. Look at that, the body just flew away. Unbelievable. I'm going to turn in the idle set screw about a quarter of a turn. Here it goes. This is going to be the final thing. I just want to make sure that it runs, and I will continue the break-in cycles at a later time when this thing is not trying to piss me off so much, because this just, you know, one thing after another.